has 15 minutes. I love when people put these cuts together. Okay? Look at this. 15 minutes of strikes. Now, while these strikes play in the background, I'm just going to break some things down for you guys, okay? Now, for those of you watching, some of you are new, but some of you have already been watching. I see a lot of faces in the chat that I recognize, a lot of names. Thank you all for being here and contributing and chatting, which, by the way, pushes the algorithm, which gets us out to more people, so thank you for doing that. But for those of you who haven't been paying attention to me or anyone else in the last few days, you are unaware about why this is happening. So I'm going to try to recap as quickly as I possibly can and make this as informative as I possibly can. Now, back in, let me just load this down real quick. Back in April, okay, Israel struck Iran's embassy in Damascus, and they murdered several diplomats and high-level officials. Wow, these explosions are amazing. Amazing. They murdered high-level officials, and they put Iran in a position. They're like, okay, you guys are supportive of Hamas. You're supportive of Hezbollah. And you have been developing this proxy around the entire region, okay, from Lebanon to Syria to Iraq to Bahrain to Yemen to Saudi, on the border with Saudi Arabia. You're getting too influential, and you're the only ones really resisting our hegemony in the region. So we're going to test you. We're going to see, are you guys serious about deterrence or not? Are you guys afraid of us, or do you want this fight? Now, obviously, Iran doesn't want the fight because even though they have these powerful capabilities, they don't have F-35s. They don't have, their economy has been under sanction for like 50 years, okay? They don't have the backing of a superpower. What Iran has been able to do is miraculous, to be honest with you, okay? And it's because they're under sanction and they're under pressure from the entire Western world. Despite that, they've developed these powerful military capabilities, but they're not interested in going to war and getting destroyed by the U.S. and Israel getting nuked, et cetera, et cetera. Nobody knows if they have a nuclear weapon. I'll share my thoughts about whether they have one now, because some people speculate that they might, and I'll tell you why that is. But anyway, the point is Iran doesn't really want that smoke. They want to play the long game. The Irani strategy has been slow, patient, build up these proxies, build up their allies, develop strength, okay, maximize their wealth through their economy. Iran, a lot of people don't know this, but they have more oil and gas than Saudi Arabia. It's only because they're under sanctions that they don't export as much as they do. All right? Now, but Iran was put in a position where they had to respond. So they decided to respond. They fired the largest drone strike in history, in human history, and they fired it at Israel. And it was a much smaller version of the events tonight, but at the time it was like, wow. All of the entire Israeli sky was lit up, okay? And people were shocked and scared. They're like, is this going to become World War III? Is this going to be a regional war? What is going to happen next? Well, Israel wanted to respond, but Israel was spooked. They were like, okay, maybe we shouldn't. And the United States pressured them not to, because the United States said this wasn't that damaging. Iran gave you a chance to de-escalate. You didn't want it. This is what you asked for. Iran struck you back, but it was a performative strike. It's a win-win-win for everyone. You can claim that you intercepted all the missiles, which Israel didn't, obviously, because if they had the ability to intercept all the missiles back then, this wouldn't be happening tonight. But the United States lied for Israel and said 99.999% of all the rockets and drones fired in April were intercepted. Well, that was a lie. And as you can see clearly, here's the evidence. If they could do it back then, they would have done it tonight. They didn't. But that's what they said, okay? And the message from Iran, let me show you. The message from Iran was this. Okay, I played this video last night. I'm going to play it again because I want you guys to understand what the deterrence strategy was, okay? It's a video from the Ayatollah Khamenei. This is it. It's a good song. It's a good edit. This is good propaganda. Excellent propaganda. But basically, the enemy knows. This is what Khamenei said. He's saying our brilliant young engineers, our youth, have been able to make, in terms of missile power, Iran the first power in the region. The enemy knows that if he hits with 1, he will be hit by 10. Okay? And then he shows the rockets. Okay? So this was Iran's message after the attack in April. When Israel struck them, their message was, you hit us again, we'll blast you with 10, okay? And this is, escalating to de-escalate. You hit us, we'll hit you harder, So you better calm down. All right. Now, that worked for about a month. But then the president of Iran, the foreign minister, died in a helicopter crash. You guys know. I'm sorry for those of you who are hearing this again for the millionth time, but there are new people watching. They want to know what's happening, okay? Shortly after this, the president of Iran and the foreign minister died in a helicopter crash. They were in Azerbaijan in the north, returning to Iran, flying over the mountains, bad weather, they crashed. Some people speculate maybe it was an assassination attempt by the Mossad, who knows. Point is, the president died, prompted new elections. So there needed to be a new president, a new foreign minister, meaning new people with new ideas, new policies. Well, the guy who was elected, okay, the new president, he wanted to take a different approach. We can't afford, we're under sanctions. There were protests just 3 years ago where the West tried to use the, you remember there was this Kurdish girl who apparently they say, of course, I'm not as familiar with the information. I suspect it was a lie and a lot of propaganda, but they say she was killed for not wearing the hijab properly, and it sparked protests. And so they tried to overthrow the Iranian government a couple of years ago, and they barely survived that situation. So they were like, we need to calm down. That's why they made the peace deal with Saudi Arabia. They said, let's slow down a bit. Okay, it's been 10 years of going too hard. Let's get things under control. We need to improve the situation for our people in Iran. So the new president said, guys, we're asking for war. There's no way to escalate without this getting out of control. And Israel wants the war with us. So what do? We have to slow down. So the new president said, even though they just assassinated Ismail Haniyeh, don't respond. Let's try to use diplomacy and negotiate. So he tried to negotiate. But of course, naive. Why do I say he was naive? Not because I'm smarter than him, but because I have seen, as many other people have seen, and I'm sure he has seen, the United States and Israel do not negotiate in good faith. They make agreements and they renege on them. So Iran agreed back in 2015 to the nuclear deal with Obama. We will not develop a nuclear weapon. We will stop enriching uranium, which is a key process and key ingredient to making a nuclear weapon, if you remove sanctions so our economy can operate properly. A year later, Donald Trump becomes president, and he rips up the agreement. So Iran spent years and a lot of money and time negotiating and not strengthening themselves by developing a weapon, okay, that could scare other countries to leave them alone. And they were humiliated. So for some reason, I don't know why they thought, especially after seeing the failed negotiations between Hamas and the United States and Israel, constantly delaying. What was Joe Biden saying? We're pushing for a ceasefire, What were they really doing? Buying time for Israel to carry out their genocide. Iran saw all this, and for some reason this president thought this strategy would work. Well, it didn't. So after Nasrallah was assassinated the other day, okay, Iran realized everyone, it was a huge hit to their reputation, to their PR. What did people say? You're a traitor. You betrayed the resistance. You're selling them out. So Iran had no choice. We have to revert back to our strategy. So 15 minutes. 15 minutes. You hit us with one, we'll hit you with 10. Here it is. Here it is. This is why this is happening. Iran is trying to reestablish deterrence, fix their reputation. They're trying to show Israel and the West that if you escalate with us, we will respond. And now what Iran has to understand, in my personal opinion, is that even if they play nice, Israel wants them destroyed. And Israel is the one controlling the pace and tempo of this. They're going to bring the war to them whether they like it or not. So Iran has to show there is no negotiating with Israel, period. Israel right now is probably already planning a response, and they're probably going to do it regardless of what the U.S. says. But what Iran has to show Western Europe and the United States is that your ally Israel, which you for some reason will not rein in, they're going to cost you in the region. They're going to cost you in the region. We don't want it, but we're serious about going to war if we have to. And that posture, whether you like it or not, the decision is made for you. You have to show strength. It's the only way, okay? Strength recognizes strength. That's it. It's the only way. So Iran has to step up, whether they like it or not, whether their economy is ready for it or not, whether their military is ready for it or not. Now, I saw someone post something very interesting earlier. They were asking, do you think taking this risk, that Iran is taking a risk, okay, this is not easy to do. A lot of people like to say, oh, they're cowards. Why aren't they responding? Bro, you're talking about a state with the most F-35s in the region, backed by a nuclear superpower, and they have nuclear weapons themselves, and they're literally insane. They're committing genocide. These people are ethno-supremacists. They believe God literally created everything for them. Literally, this is what they believe, okay? This is not a rational person. So it's not about fear. It's about, yeah, okay, I can play this game of chicken, but I know you're so crazy that you're not going to get out of the way. So it's a risk. But now they're taking that risk. So someone asks the question, has Iran developed a nuclear weapon? I don't know. I have no way of knowing. But there's a way you can tell when people act with strength, they're not afraid anymore. And usually when they're not afraid, it's because they have something that gives them confidence. So the way they probably think about it now, we have hypersonic missiles. We don't have F-35s, so we can't fly fighter jets to drop a nuke on you. You could do that to us. Israel can do that to Iran. They can drop a nuke on Iran right now. 10 nukes on Iran with F-35s right now. Literally, as we speak, they could do that. Iran can't. They don't have the fighter jets for that. But what they have are hypersonic ballistic missiles. And they could throw a nuke on that right now. And they could hit all over Israel. So that's a threat of mutually assured destruction. And as scary as that sounds, that's what prevented the U.S. and Russia from bumping heads directly throughout the Cold War, which lasted for many decades. So in a weird way, more bombs can create more peace. In a very weird way. Pakistan and India, why have they not gone at each other and killed each other and destroyed each other? Because they both have nukes. There's a mutually assured threat. Therefore, there is mutual respect. You respect the opponent that you fear. So Iran, for the last few months, has been playing soft because of this change in leadership. And I know a lot of people say Khamenei's the one who's really in charge. Yes and no, okay? He makes the decisions, but at the same time, every leader is beholden to those right, beneath him.